Hello everybody, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with a 40k Tactics video. I'm going to go back through my old 40k Tactics videos from 6th edition and I'm going to revisit them because it's been a while and obviously tactics will have changed because of new game mechanics or because of new rules. So there's a lot of things that can be revisited, and something I want to cover is actually based on a video I saw from Commissar Warwick last night. It was to do with assault armies, and it got me thinking. Because assault armies, the way I would run an assault army with my orcs is a mix of horde and elite units. And anyway, that got me thinking about an old 40k Tactics video I did where I looked at Blobs and MSU. Where I looked at the flood the board and the little units. And I've had a bit of experience playing against the two setups now because Kieran is an MSU spammer. He plays massives of MSU. And I think that he's almost overdoing it, and I want to revisit it and see how viable the two tactics are. So let's go back to Blobs, shall we? Blobs are where I consider you get 20 plus, ideally 30 plus men, aliens, thingies on the table in one unit, and you run it at your opponent, or you hold your ground, or whatever your army is designed to do, be it guardsmen, orcs, gaunts. I don't think Guardians can make units that big, but you get the idea. And you take big units and you put them on the board. Now, your opponent will have to either shoot them off the board or charge them off the board, depending on what their army can do. But that's not as easy as it sounds, because if you've got 2 or 3 blobs, how do you kill 100 men? Or, in the Guards case, you go up and take 150 men in 3 troop choices out of the platoons. How do you kill that much stuff? It's hard, particularly if it's an assault army like Nids, who've just played 100 gaunts and are just running them up in your face. How do you kill all that? Target priorities, that's what. You need to think about what is going to hit you and what's going to hit you the most. So what's the point of saying, right, these 2 units are going to shoot that squad and take 10 guys off. These 3 squads in the middle are going to shoot that squad and take 15 guys off. And then this squad over here is going to take a shot and kill 6 guys. What's the point? You've still got about 70, 60 guys running at you. And they're all in different squads. They can still charge masses of things. Option 2 is you completely focus fire. So right, everything that can, target that squad. You kill the whole squad. You just wipe it out. You've then got 2 full strength squads on your flanks, for example. That's no good either. So what do you do? This is the problem that is faced with anyone who runs masses of blobs. Yes, board control is a problem because you have to get around these masses of blobs. And it's hard, particularly if you're a gun line, because a gun line is going to be static and it's just going to be easy enough to run at. And if your opponent has any other units like flying hive tyrants, carnifexes, zone thropes, lictors, anything, they're going to cause mayhem because your opponent won't know where to look. He'll be like, what am I shooting at? You don't know. That's it. That's the whole point. The blobs are there to run in your opponent's face and scare the living daylights out of them. So what do? You need to distract the blobs. And this is where your reserves become critical. So, think about it. If I'm an orc player, and I'm actually running quite a Dakka heavy setup, so lots of looters, Gorkanauts, shooter boys and whatever, and I've got lines of Nids running at me, okay, I'm going to put a squad of commandos in reserve and outflank them with a burner or 2 and toast that squad that's there, and that way he can't just let me keep doing that. So he's going to have to turn that squad around and run them at the commandos. Particularly if they're quite well entrenched in cover, so the other units can't do it. By the same token, I could drop Storm Boys into his deployment zone on a back objective, and if he's been running up the board, somebody's going to have to come back and stop them, because they're going to just sit and claim an objective and claim line breaker. That's easy. So you have to try and pull the blobs away from your face. So distraction, sacrificial units are big in dealing with this. Same if you've got lots of guard blobs. Maybe they're just sat in lines, maybe Aegis defense line, with 2 big platoons. Okay, let's see. I'm going to drop My commandos again, I'm going to outflank right in the guard's face and I'm going to toast them. Meanwhile, my warbikers are going to come whizzing up the board, and because the guardsman squad has to deal with the commandos that are right in their face and can go to ground behind an Aegis for the other squads, that squad has to then toast them. Meaning the warbikers have got a free turn to run up the board, getting brilliant cover saves because there's a unit in the way because of the unit behind. And my battle wagon can just come thundering up, and my Gorkanaut can come stomping up, or Morkanaut as I'd probably run, or whatever. And that's what I could do. Or I could bring them in the back line, where right next to that artillery that's shelling my boys with a power claw and a couple of rocket launchers, and if I don't kill it, I'll kill it next turn, have to turn something on me. Same idea. The other thing you could do is you flood the board yourself. So you almost have to flood the board with your own units and just say, come at me. Because if you can put 50 Fire Warriors down with a Cadre Fireblade behind them and an Ethereal behind them to give out triple tap or quad tap, they're going to absolutely shred. And that time, you might get away with it. You might only get away with it for 2 turns, and then they're going to be in your face and you might have a problem, but you have supporting fire. And that's the Tau saving grace, I guess. So, you could also try MSU, because a blob can only kill 1 squad a turn. You can only shoot at one thing, and then it has to assault that thing. So, what do? You say, right, 5-man scout squad, go in their face. 5-man tactical marine squad, take your rhino and go behind them. Just little squads. If he's having to kill your little squads, he can't kill the big scary stuff like your Land Raider Redeemer, which is going to come trundling with 2 flamestone cannons, eat this. Bang, dead. Or Baal Predator, or whatever. It just comes in and toasts them. And it works. MSU is a good counter to blobs. However, you have to get your MSU around, and that means you need vehicles, which actually is a good thing. Vehicles are actually hard for blob armies to kill, because they only will pack 1 heavy weapon per 10, usually. With orcs and guard, 1 heavy weapon per 10, maybe 2, that can kill a tank. And the rest of them can't actually hurt it because they're not strength 4. Boys are the exception on the charge, they become strength 4. So yeah, blobs, they can be dealt with. Weight of fire doesn't actually normally cut it. You'll need to play distraction and a couple of sacrificial units. Plus, I think having enough models on the board is a good help. Anything with a blast template or a flamer template is welcome here. Unless you like Ben and he just does that stupid spacing thing with the coherency. Then the other end of the spectrum, of course, MSU. This is where you don't take squads. You take individual models if you're Kieran. So he takes his Crisis Battle team in 3 1s instead of 1 3. His Fire Warrior teams are 2 6s instead of 1 12. He'd combat squad if he had the option. And I can't get my head around this tactic, because in most games that's easy first blood, and it's so easy to clear them off an objective. And in kill point games it's just 3 points. Like, killing a Crisis Battlesuit is not as difficult as you might think. Killing 6 Fire Warriors is not difficult. It's up to a point MSU is useful, but if you go full MSU spam, like you combat squad everything, and you take your elite squads in 1s or 3s instead of 5s and 10s, and yeah, it's weird. And to combat it, it's simple. Focus on one thing, kill it. Then the next thing, kill it. Then the next thing, kill it. 1 unit per unit. You won't kill everything in a turn, but within 3, your opponent will be very whittled down. The only problem you then have is board control, because MSU can be everywhere at once, particularly if they've got fast units, vehicles, jump packs, whatever. They can get around and they can dominate the board. They can take all the different objectives at once because there's so many of them. And that in tactical objective games is a nightmare. I don't know why I'm getting so much light, so I'm just going to move the screen. So yeah, they can get good board control, particularly in tactical objective games. This is problematic. So you need to be able to shoot them down and do it quickly. So fast response units of your own, or you take a blob and you park it right in front of, say, Objective 2 and Objective 5 and say, come and run past this unit. Get past this unit if you can. And they might jump over the top of it. They might go around it. but the time they have to take going around it or avoiding it is going to cost them a turn, and if they get too close, wallop. That unit is toast. Well, toast, dead, whatever you want to use. That unit is gone if it gets too close because it's so small. Your large blast weapons are less useful here because they're more likely to scatter. Flamer weapons are good, and multiple shot weapons are good. So assault cannons are gold against this sort of unit. Auto cannons, missile pods, that sort of thing, they are gold in this situation because they're not risking scattering, it's just on your own ballistic skill. And yeah, cover saves are problematic, so bring flamers. Duh. You always bring flamers whenever there's MSU about. At least I would, because they're very good at getting into cover and sticking it out, particularly if there's an objective nearby. So yeah, MSU and Blobs. As I think I said last time, the best way to run it is a bit of both. So maybe, for me, as a guard player, I might take 2 platoons of 30 guys, and then take a third platoon, maybe of 3 squads of 10, all mounted in chimeras or Tauroxes, and they're going to be my objective grabbers, whilst one blob walks up the board and one blob stays home. Excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze in a minute. Anyway, that's what you do. You utilise the strengths. So with MSU it's mobility, with blobs it's board control. And you use it so the blob goes thumping up the board and says, shoot me. Meanwhile, my chimeras are going to be running around grabbing all the objectives I need, picking off small units for kill points, harassing the big units that are going to threaten my blobs, going after tanks, whatever. And then I put a squad of Militarum Tempestus, say, deep strike them in with melter guns, and that way my opponent has to turn their attention inwards again to not have to target my blob, which is going to then walk up and claim the objectives it needs to take. In Emperor's Will games, so like capture and control, where it's one objective each, this is a really clever tactic. Because that blob is just going to stomp its way up the board. The chimeras will be a real hassle, and the Militarum Tempestus, the ultimate kamikaze destruction unit, particularly if you've given them melters. Alright, high tank, gone. That tank is now gone. That's not going to threaten your blob anymore. And they'll have to turn their anti-tank weapons or their massive rending weapons on your chimeras because they're up in the face and going to claim the objective. Meanwhile, there's just 30 guys walking up the board. Taking casualties, yes, but that's what you put a commissariat in there for. Same applies with orcs. Just take 2 squads of truck boys and then have a horde walking up the middle with a warboss to keep them in line. And a big mech for cover saves or invols. That would always help. And if you've got a Morkonaut to give another invol, even bloody better. Nids, the same. Have a warrior unit hidden behind your gauntlet unit and have 2 units of harassing gargoyles. Same idea, and then have a lictor or 2 come in. That's how I do it, and it works. Because your opponent needs to deal with the blob, but the amount of MSU in its face, it can't do everything. And that's great. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it useful. Leave a like if you did. Leave your comments down below on your opinions on MSU and blobs, because that's just my opinion. That's how I would use them, but obviously everyone has their own way of using it. Like, Kieran would never blob. His arm isn't big enough to blob. But he would never blob. Whereas I would never consider full MSU, so I always look for the advantages of both and blobs. Because I played guard and I played orcs. That's what I do. So leave your comments down below. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Go down in the description. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. I think hopefully coming up will be obviously more codex analysis, and hopefully Kieran will be back and we'll be making some content next week. If we don't, then I'm hopefully going to see Ben and we'll do a battle report, or he'll do some video gaming for me, or James will have the next part of his Dawn of War 2. I'm really not sure what's going to happen this week. So thank you for watching. My name is Michael, and I will see you all again.